Well, good morning, everyone. This is Jack Gershfeld from Altinex, and we're going to start another webinar in a second. Today we're going to talk about graphical user interface. A little bit of preface. Last week we released AVSnap version 6.03. We found one small bug, 6.02. We found a small bug, and we're going to be updating it to 6.03 today, so you'll see that coming up. And just for you to know, if you want to know what the bug is, in the 6.02, if you select objects from left to right, everything's going to be okay, but if you select it from right to left, you're going to get an error. So that's been fixed, and we have an update patch coming up later today. All right. With this in mind, let's go ahead and start with the design. The first thing to do is to make sure, so when you start AVSnap, you start usually in the normal mode, which is the design mode. And right here on the top, you can see project mode. To switch to the control mode, you all know we need to go to pixel size, 640 by 480, and put apply. And you have a couple of things. You have your IP address on the left-hand side. You also have your MAC address. And you have a page, 640 by 480, and the page size. When you're doing graphical user interface, it's really important to keep the page size as small as possible so the pages will load fast and so the changes occur quickly. Also, if you go to the property on the page, you will see that we have an option here. It's called a fast page change, maximum 10 pages. If you want to maximize the speed at which the pages change when you push the buttons on the graphical user interface, and you can maintain it in less than 10 pages, the overall design, then I would select this. By selecting this, we basically cache all the pages into the memory, and everything is recalled from the memory instead of pulling it from the hard drive. Let's talk about the general how I set up the project. So usually I have a very specific way I'd like to set up the project before I start any type of design. I'm going to add new pages, and I did this by right-clicking on the page, or you can just press shortcut A. Shortcut New, and it will N as a new, and you will get the pages. So I'm going to go ahead and add 5 pages. I'll make them all 640 by 480, so they're all identical, and I'm going to rename them really quickly. So the first page that I'd like to do, which is my last page typically, this is going to be my template. I don't know what I'm going to do with the template, but I always have a template, and I click on it, set a template, and make it invisible. So that's my last page. The next page I'd like to do is what I call TCP page. A TCP page allows me to test all my control codes through the network, so anything that I'm controlling. So I'm going to go to that page right away, and I'm going to switch it to communication mode right here, right up below the run. I'm going to click it and say communication mode. So my page is TCP communication mode. And right away, I double-click on the terminal window, and I'm going to decide what am I going to control. So in this case, I'm going to use TCP. I need to select the adapter. You can go to all, but there will be sometimes interference if you use wireless and landline at the same time and you connect both of them. There may be some difficulties. So the best way is just to select the device that you're going to be controlling. This would be the address of the component that you're going to be controlling. So I'm going to put 192.168.0.50, for example. The port number in many cases is port number telnet, port number 23. And as I said before, you want to always set 1,000 milliseconds. There are reasons to do it other than 1,000 milliseconds, but for fastest response, you want to get to 1,000 milliseconds. And everything else you pretty much leave the same. So there's my TCP terminal. I can connect to devices. On the right-hand side, I can type in the command. So if I'm controlling Neutron, I will type CRC, and that would be give me a status of the project. So if I want to send this, I'm going to select this and press F3, and it will send only this command. The next page that I'd like to set up always is called a UDP page. Many of the projects or many of the products will use both TCP and UDP controls. So I'm going to click right here and I put UDP. A lot of times when you do discovery, for example, in Altinex, when you put Altinex, a question mark with Altinex and send it out, it will find all the Altinex products on the network and it will report their IP addresses. So I like that a lot. So double click here. You switch to UDP mode. You're in TCP UDP mode. Depending on what UDP port number you're going to be using. So we're going to always send to 255, 255, 255. That's a UDP. You're going to send it to all of the adapters because you want to know where everything is located. Depending on the product, you will put different port number, and that would be user guide. And in case of Altinex products, it's always port 30303. That's where you do the UDP. And then you click UDP mode. So that's my UDP. So if I want to know what's on the line, I just type in question mark UDP. Now notice when I click on the bottom left corner where it says disconnected, if I click, it says connected. And the reason is because UDP mode is a transmit only mode or broadcast only mode. Once you, it's almost like RS-232. You're sending the command, you don't care who's on the other side, you don't care who's listening, you're just sending the command out, and the appropriate devices that have the right port, and they will respond to you. So there's my 3 pages. The next page I call always system control. This is a page where I actually do my control diagram. Okay, I double click on it and I switch it back to normal mode because that's where I'm going to control everything. In fact, once you have the file completed, you will have graphical user interface, you will have all of the control codes, everything in one file. So at any time in the future, if you ever need to, reprogram something, you don't need to collect multiple files trying to figure out what you did. So in this case, what I usually do, I start drawing little diagrams. I call it a rat nest, the same as I showed last time, rat nest design. But in this case, I'm going to put a little diagram and I'm going to say, this is going to be my laptop. So laptop. And I'm going to be 192.168.1.10, for example. And that gives me a little place here to hold it. And then I'm going to put some components here. So the component could be a projector. So I'm going to put Panasonic projector. And I'm going to control it through RS-232. So I'm going to put RS-232. And I'm going to put immediately the baud rate, 9600.819, okay? So you can see in the diagram, I will have enough information to understand what I'm doing. So now, the next thing I'm going to put a little screen, and this is going to be relays. And it's going to be relay 1, open, relay 2, closed, close the screen, okay? So there's my screen. I also have shades in the house, so I'm going to put here shades, and I'm also going to put relay 1 open to close, okay? Then the next thing I'm going to add a couple of more things and we'll be done with this. It's going to be my switch, HDMI switch plus audio, probably universal receiver or something. And that's going to be controlled through RS-232, 819, and whatever else you have. If you have the video conferencing system or anything else that you need to control. I like to also put here cable box, and that's going to be IR. And then we need codes here. I'll put a question mark initially, but then we'll get the codes later. So here's a little diagram of everything I need to control. Before I do any graphical user interface, I just put this in. And of course, we need to connect to a network someplace. That's fine, double click. That's my circle or oval. If I go to the properties, I can say cloud shape, apply, and there's my little oval here, okay? So that's going to be my internet. And now we're going to start connecting. So there's my connection here, 2 arrows on the left-hand side. And then I need a controller. So I'm going to go ahead and add the controller here. This is going to be controller. And right now, I don't put any model numbers, of course. I can put, CP 500-100 Altinex controller, but I don't need to do it right now because I don't know what I'm going to need. So I'm just going to put it here. and I'm going to say, okay, I need to be able to control it. So I'm going to go this way, and I'm going to put IP address for now, 192.168.1.11. That's going to be a controller. And now I'm going to decide what I'm going to do. So here I'm going to do relay. This is going to be relay, so I'm going to need 2 relays. I'm going to need 1 RS-232. So that's bidirectional, and right away put a text here, RS-232, so I know what the cable is going to look like later. And you see how it's overlapped, so I'm going to put white fill, and then connect another RS-232, so that's going to be just a copy-paste. Now be careful here, because if this is an automatic increment text number, so if I copy-paste this, it's going to be RS-233. We don't want that, so turn this off, and then just copy RS-232, and we're done. And finally, we have IR. So now, IR is a one-way. And someplace here, I'm going to need to learn the IR. So I'm going to put here IR, RX, so I can learn this, and I'm going to put it in here so I can learn this. There we go. All right, so that's my simplified diagram, and no matter how complicated your system is, this is what you need to have to make it work, okay? You don't need to have a very complicated diagrams. I'll show you some of the ones that I've done before, and they get a little bit busy, but overall single page with rat-nest type of connection is sufficient to do all of the programming. And you can always go back in the future and see what your connections are. And especially, you know, we had recently I had a customer call in from 6 years ago, and they said they changed the laptop. They don't know how to do this, the program doesn't work anymore. Without this diagram, we wouldn't be able to do anything. So just changed one IP address, and we're done. So let's go ahead and call it my home theater, or whatever else you're going to call this. Okay, and there you go. So that's my next setup. So finally, I'm getting to my GUI, or graphical user interface. So I'm going to leave those 2 pages. So the first page is going to be my home page. And I'm going to make a decision. Do I need to use a browser, or do I need to use a browser for controlling it? So you can do a couple of things. You can run it as standalone in the environment like this. So I can just press F9, and it will run right here. You can see that I can just, there's no buttons here, but you can run it just like this. Or you can run it in the same time on a web browser, so you can use your iPhone. So if you run it and the iPhone can connect to it, then you're all set. So let's go ahead, and we can enable a server setting right here. If you want to enable server setting, so enable a server setting that will serve the pages. You don't have to display graphical user interface. You can just say complete, and when you're done, when you press F9, you'll notice it has a little display here that says AVSnap is in web server, press stop button, stop, and then minimize. It's now running on the right-hand side inside your computer, so you don't have to even look at it. And when you need to come back, just click on it and stop, and you're back to the control. So that's how easy you can make it web-enabled. And everything you do in a graphical user interface, you also can do on the website. So I'm going to go ahead and web-enable and turn it off right now, but just give you a nice feature. The next thing we need to decide is, do we want to have some kind of background, okay? The backgrounds are available. Now I would say you can get everything on the internet, but you can always go to AVSnap backgrounds right here. And we've prepared a bunch of different backgrounds. They all were hired artists doing some nice little backgrounds. So I'm just going to pick up one background. You can have different sizes. And let me use the blue one, and there it is. The blue background, I'm just going to drag it into the page, and there it is. That's my background. Now, I don't want to keep it here. What I want to do is remove it and put it on a template and apply the template here. And now there's a template background. I don't have to worry about anything. Now, sometimes people say, well, I want to see the grid lines. No problems. Double-click and put the grid lines on top, okay? And then the grid lines will show up. And then later on when you finish, you can just bring everything back on the template. All right, let's go with the template right now. And we're going to do a couple of designs and see how we can do things quickly here. So I'm going to do a couple of things. Number one, the most important object that you're going to have is what we call a button object. And we're going to put this button here. And this is going to be my main screen, and I'm going to say start. Start. Now notice we have a button text, and there's 4 different positions. One position is when the button is up, when the button is disabled, when the button is down, and the button is over. And you can also have a multi-line text. This gives you a quick way to put a single liners in. If you want multi-line text, you just click here. When you apply and you don't fill out any other text here, this will put start in all the other text boxes. So I'm going to apply this, and you can see they're all here, and there's your start. Okay. So when you start, you now need to go to second page typically. So you can put your logo here or whatever else you want. And when you start, that's when you turn the projector on and lower the screen, close the shades, turn your receiver on. All of this happens when you press start. And then usually you press start and you wait a few seconds and then say, okay, wait, the system is ready. So one thing that we need to add here, one more page. And I'm not going to duplicate page format just by itself right there. And I'm going to call it objects. And the objects are and I'm going to move it right here in front of the UDP. The object is a page that holds the control object that will control everything. So if I'm going to go back to my system control, and you can see that from my laptop, I need to be able to control this controller, okay? If you have multiple controllers, let's say 1 at 11 and 1 at 12, let's say, that control multiple relays and contact closures, IRs, then you would have multiple objects. So in this case, I'm going to go back to objects, and I'm going to put TCP object. All right. If I have 2 controllers, I will put 2. So for every controller, for everything you need to control, you will have one of these objects. So let's go to the object number 1. And I'm going to call it Neutron. That's the name of the controller. And when I change the ID name, I also need to change the characters, the on characters triggers and on error. So trigger name. Do you want to rename triggers? Yes. Now we don't have a code yet, so we don't need to care about update code. And you can see this were changed. Adapters. You're going to define which adapters you're going to talk through. So my wired adapter. And now you're going to put 192.168.1.11 and the port number 23 and local port we don't need and 1000, and that's it. Everything else I'm going to control with the code. All right. So in this case, the second object I would probably put the same thing, but I would put Neutron 2 and the same IP, the same adapter, but 192.168.1.12, for example. Port number 23, 1000, and the trigger name, yes. Okay. All right. And there it is. And now my second page, I'm going to call it, it's going to be my control page. Control 1. You can call anything else you want, and sometimes people have multiple pages, multiple layers, but we'll have home and then control 1 page. So when you press start button, you want to go to the control page. So a couple of things are going to happen. We're going to move to another page. There is a simple way of doing it, and you can just go to the page link and just go to select page, and you can go to control page right here, control 1. So that does not require any coding, but you also give up control when you don't have a coding, okay? So if you do this and you apply it, then this is my control page. Okay, let's make it a little bigger. When I run it right away, when I press the button, it goes to control page. All right? So it's that simple. F9 to run. You're on the main page. Now notice that I can move this around. Okay. And then when I press start, it's going to go here. So there's a couple of things we want to do when we start up the application. And one of them is right here. We have an application object. We're going to click on this application object. And you can see that you have triggers called on execute, on close, on mouse move. Okay, so you can do also on show page and on timeout. So you can do many different things here. So, but one we're interested in is called application on execution. When we start the program, what do we want to do? So in this case, we're going to add the procedure by clicking here, and it says, "Are you sure you want to add a new procedure?" And you say yes, and then apply. So when we press F11, we have now our design or code window where we do all the programming. In the code window, you have a couple of things. Now you can see all these rainbow colors, mainly designed so you can align your text. So when you do if statements, you can easily align your text as you go through. You can also turn it off here if you just like to have white screen, but if you want to align things, you can turn it on. You can also search for different variables if you need to find something, adjust the font, and you can also shift left and right, okay? Shift left and right, different things, so text basically. So I'm going to come back here, and on startup, the first thing I want to do, I want to change to a different page. So I'm going to, when I press this button, I'm going to go to separate page. But when I start up, let's first enable TCP communication. So I'm going to go Neutron 1, Neutron right there, and then I press a period. As soon as I press a period, it gives you all the functions available for that object. So when you need to do something for the object, you just type the name of the object and press a period, and that will give you object's capability, okay? And then you say connect. All right, connect means connect to the port that I specified there. Now, since I specified phantom port, I'm not sure it's not going to connect to anything, but just to give you the connection, connect, and then, oh, that's it, connect, and that's it. So that's all it takes to connect this, okay? The next function that I want to add, and I'm going to go back to the object, and I'm going to add on close right there, and I'm going to go back to Neutron, dot, and I want to disconnect. So here's what I'm doing. When I'm starting the program, I'm connecting to the Neutron controller. When I'm stopping the program, I'm going to disconnect from it. That's as simple as that. Just two little lines, and you're ready to go, okay? So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to add a function to the start button. So I'm going to go ahead and say properties by pressing shortcut B, or if you put properties by pressing equal sign, you get the same thing. And I'll show you why equal sign is important for other things, but in this particular context, they are the same. So I'm going to put a start button, and I'm going to change all the triggers. Yes, change all the triggers. So start. So when I push the button down, there's two things you need to be concerned. One is on click. On click means you push the button down, and it will trigger only when you release the button. Okay. The next one is on mouse down. That means as soon as you push the button, it goes. It doesn't wait for anything. So if you want customers to change their mind, push the button, hold, slide your finger off of the button, release, then the on click would be correct. But if you want something to take care or start right away, as soon as you push the button, you want to go ahead and use on mouse down. Okay, now if you also have a double click, that's also if you have a mouse-driven interface. But a lot of times, double click is only if you're running it on a desktop. But if you're running it on a touch device, you probably want a single click. You also have a press and hold. In this case, hold time, you say, if you hold it for 2 seconds, let's say 2,000 milliseconds, then do something. In our case, we're going to put it to 0 right now. And when the mouse is out, then change it also. So let's come back and do on mouse down, yes. And let's see what we're going to do here. So you see we have two procedures, application open, application close. You can always move the procedure to archived position. And what it does when you move it to archived is it gets it out of the way. So if you're working just with the procedures, you can just archive them, and then that will take care of this, okay? But let's go ahead and do the button start on down. So the first thing we want to do is to switch to another page. Okay, so we're going to do app dot show page. Okay, in this case, you see show page is right here, show page, and we have a show page called control 1. So we're going to come back here and say control 1. And that will switch the page from one to the other. So the next thing we want to do is probably to send the string to the controller and turn the relay on and then turn the projector on. So we're going to come back here and say app dot, not app, I'm sorry, neutron dot, and right here we have write string. You see write string, and that will allow us to write the string into the buffer. And in this case, maybe I'm going to say COU RS-232 port, and I want to send 02 to start transmission, P on, power on, and then %03 stop the transmission and send it out. Okay, so there's my command. Now I know it's a little bit complicated here, but in general, what it says, open brackets, that's a part of the controller delimiters. This is a use RS-232 port number 1. Send the start transmission character for the PGA projector, turn the projector on, and then complete the command and then close the brackets and you're all done, okay? Notice that when I press Control F9, right here on the bottom you say successfully compiled. That means you compiled the program and it will run, all right? You can do a couple more things now. So if we go to app dot, let's see if we want to do something else. No, it's okay. We can actually come back here and say, let's send the command to relay, and we're going to do the COR, and in this case we're going to say relay 1, switch it for 100 milliseconds on and off, and that will allow you to right away to just do a contact closure, and that will lower the screen, for example. So you can always put double lines and just put lower screen, and then come back here and say PJ on. All right, so now we're going to save this. Now, somebody asked what's the price of the server. The server is one of those additional features. And to enable the server, what you need to do is to register the server. So you put your company name here, and you send us this page. You can copy it or give us the MAC address and company name, and we will give you a registration key. Once the registration key is given, once you plug it in, it will be registered, and you can use it for up to 5 people at the same time can get on the same web server, and it's $99. If you want to unlimited, so no matter how many people, then it's $995. But we haven't seen anybody working unlimited since more than 5 people. That would be too many people controlling the system. And we're talking about 5 people at the same time. You can have unlimited number of people as long as they do it, not do it simultaneously. All right. So what's nice about this, you have your program. It's now running. And you can monitor it. So even if you have your code open, you can now press F9 and run the program. See, the program is running. Your code is running. What happens on the right-hand side here, you'll have your variables if you need to debug it. All right? So you can also open what we call F3, port viewer, at the same time. So look what happens. You can watch what happens in the port. So in this case, we have 2 Neutron controllers. One is Neutron and Neutron 2. They're disconnected. Each of them is at different IP addresses. Now, the reason they're disconnected because there's no Neutron controller online, but it just gives you an idea of what you would see. So when you press the start button, it sent a command. Now you see the command is in red, and that means it did show you that what command would have been sent if there would be a controller online. And you can see that there's one command sent to the projector and one command sent to the screen. Okay. And if you want, for example, to to monitor this and actually stop it and see what's happening, you can escape out of this and then click on the side right here. And this is, you're going to have a breakpoint. A breakpoint means that when you run the program, it will stop there and wait for you to do something. So if I'm going to press F9 again, and I'm going to press F3, now when I press the start button, it went into here and says app, show page, control 1. You see it's red, that means it's waiting for you to do something. If you go to run, you can do a couple of things. You can skip that particular command, or you can skip it right here with F8, or you can step into this command. That means actually execute the command. So F7 is what I usually do. And you can just press F7, and it went now to the second line. Then you send this, and you can see that when you send the second line in, that line appeared here in the ports viewer. And then the third line, the last line you run, and that's it. So at the end, it's still not running because you already stopped it. So you can remove the breakpoint and just press F9 to continue normal operation. So you have a full design environment and full control, and compiling occurs instantaneously. So you don't have to wait for anything. You just do your code, run it, modify the code, run it, adjust it, whatever needs to be done. Okay, let's go ahead and exit from this, and come back and put some of the controls on the template page. So what we're going to do, we're going to put one button on the template page, and we're going to call this button Home for now. So anywhere I use this button, it will show up as Home. And what's nice here, I don't need to write any code here. I'm just going to say that whenever I press this button, just go to Home. Okay. Now that it's on the template, if I press Home, you can see that this button is here, no matter what. So when I start running it, if I start here, I need to apply the template on this page also. Control, apply template, and now that I started, start and go home. Start and go home. Now notice each page is in a different physical location, you see, because each page is defined as a window. So to make everything the same, you need to go to the properties, and you want to make sure that you align graphical user interface. So there's a movable. Okay, you may remove the borders, but you also want to align everything with the startup page. Okay, so when you finish with this, you align with startup, and you say apply. And now when you run it, you can see if I move this around, if I press start, and I go home. Now notice that when I changed one page to no borders, the other pages don't change. So you may want to apply this to all the pages at the same time. So again, go to Properties, Graphical User Interface, align with the startup pages, and then apply to all pages right here. And when you apply it, when you start it up, well, it didn't apply it. I don't know why it didn't apply it. So let's go to Property Pages and Graphical User Interface, align with startup page. And no borders. Okay, that's good. All right, so now, no borders. You can still move it around, and you can start and you go to Control Page and Home Page. All right, so let's go ahead and add a couple of other things here. And on the Control Page, I'm going to say two buttons really quickly. And one button would be screen, actually one button, and we're going to call it when it's up, press to lower screen, and when it's down, we're going to say press to raise screen. Okay. So now we have an interesting situation. The same button will lower and raise the screen. So we need to have it as a toggle. So we'll go back to the properties. We say that the toggle mode right here. Okay. And this is going to be my screen control. And I'm going to change the trigger names to screen control. so it's easier for me to reference, and I'm going to add on mouse down screen control. So there we go. Let's come back here, and what we're going to do on screen control and mouse down. So there's my new procedure, screen control. There's a couple of things that I need to do here. I need to use an if statement. And this is my, so if this is my button, I'm going to copy screen control variable, come back here and say if screen control period, and then the first one is down. If the button is down, true, then do something. Begin, end. Else, begin, and end. There we go. So if the control is down, then I need to raise the screen. Okay, and this is going to be my relay number 2. So here's my quick commands. When the button is pressed, if the button is down, then we want to raise the screen. When the button is up, we want to lower the screen. All right. So let's come back and test it really quick. F9, start, F3, let's look at our commands, and there we go. Down, it sends the command, and up, it sends the command. So press to lower the screen, and then raise to get the screen. You can see there's 2 different commands that are being sent. So this is one way to control. And of course, you can add other things here to your needs. Okay, let's go ahead and look at a couple of other designs and what we can do here. So I'm going to go ahead and save this page. Oops, cancel. Save this, and I'm going to clear it all up and give you a couple of other inputs, and we can go back to that page. And also going to go over a specific design that we've had recently. So sometimes you have an application where you would like to have a screen that is not just rectangle. So let's see if we can make a screen that looks like this. All right, so there's our round. Let's go ahead and put a couple of buttons here. There's my button 1, and then my button 2. Go to Properties, Page Properties, Graphical User Interface, and we're all set here. Let's see. The next thing we need to do is to set up a Graphical User Interface shape. So go back to Property, and right here, Property of the Page property, and right here see Graphical User Interface, GUI Shape ID. Okay, so let's see what ID we have for this shape. And as you see, I move my mouse over it, and there's no shape. So I use the equal sign, and that's when I was talking to you before. The equal sign can be used on any object to assign ID to the object, so later you can control it. And you can make any object visible or invisible. So I'm going to put GUI Shape. That's going to be my interface. And now when I go to Properties and Graphical User Interface, I can select this shape. So as soon as I see it, where is it? Equals GUI Shape. Okay, good. ID. Double click. Graphical User Interface, and there it is. GUI Shape. Apply. So now when I run it, let's see, I missed something here. Apply. When I run it, I have my Graphical User Interface as a circle on the background. Okay, so you see, you can make any other shape you want. If you move this to the right and make any weird shape of Graphical User Interface, and then use the equal sign to assign GUI Shape 2, and then put yellow on the fill color and put it to the background. Now, let's go ahead and go to Page Properties and select a different shape. when I run it, I have a different shape graphical user interface. All right. Now, that's not very useful until you can make it so it will disappear if you don't use it and appears when you use it. So let's go ahead and make some changes on properties, graphical user interface. We're going to make it so when we move over the transparency, it's 0 transparency. But when we move mouse out, it's going to be only 10% transparency. Fade speed is going to be 0.1 seconds. Fade delay is going to be 0.1 second, and then speed is 0.1 second. Sorry, this is 100 milliseconds. And we apply to this, and this is what happens. When you have your mouse over it, everything's good, but you see as I move my mouse out of it, it becomes transparent. In this case, it's only 10% transparent. So if you want to, you can go back to the properties and make it 90% transparent, and it will barely be visible on the screen. So you can move it into place where you don't need to use it, but as soon as you put your mouse over it, you can go ahead, control it, and then just move out, and it will disappear from the screen. You can use other programs. So that's another way of controlling or designing graphical user interface. All right, let's go ahead and do a couple of things with the buttons, okay? Because everybody likes to use graphical buttons and make it look a little bit nicer. So what we're going to do, we're going to see if we can make the buttons different shapes. So I'm going to create a bunch of buttons, and we can just try to make them look nicer. So one way is let's go ahead and go to the website and just go to Google, and we're going to find buttons. All right. Okay, fine. So there's our button. Let's say I want to make it like this. Let's see if that will work. I want to make my button look like this. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop one button here. Okay. Now let's say I'm going to drop my button, this guy. I'm going to drop it here. And I'm going to drop this button here. Green. And finally, I'm going to get one more, which is all red. Red. All right, so here's our buttons. And as you can see, they're 488 by 488. We're going to go ahead and grab those buttons all together and make them 50 by 50. 50 by 50 by 50. So there's our buttons right here. We can also do a couple of things to make them a little bit smoother. And that's going to be to resample them. So right click and resample the image, okay? So now you can see they're nice and smooth at 100%. So now we're going to apply those buttons as images to actual buttons here. So the way to do it is just to move it over the button. And it's going to ask you whether you want it to be button up, button down, mouse over, or image. So I'm going to just say I'm going to do button up. That's going to be blue. And what it does, it automatically aligns the page and changes the control to that particular size. Okay. So I'm going to also come back and put this, and I'm going to say this is button down on the image. All right. And this is going to be button up, and this is going to be button down. So now you have two buttons working next to each other. And the question is, where did this image went to? How do I put it in, but can I use it someplace else? Yes. There's an image object right here on the left-hand side. If you click on the image object, all of your images are stored in here. And you can see each image has an index, 1, 2, 3, and 0, okay? So I can select the next button, press B for properties, come back here and say image up. I'm going to select yellow, okay? And image down, I'm going to select blue. So you can see I can select them as needed. Now I'm going to go ahead and run. Now notice that these buttons are nice and clean, but this button has a little outline around it. So you're going to go to Property and make sure you select Transparent Button. When you select Transparent Button, the button disappears and the only thing you see is the graphical user interface. So when I press the button, move it here, and you can see I can press it and it changes to a different color. So this way you can design any buttons you want and graphically put anything you want on it. So there's my buttons here. I'm going to go ahead and double click here and go to graphical user interface and put 00 for now. We don't need all of this. Apply, and I'll make it movable. Apply to all pages and align with startup, and we're done. So what do we do with these buttons? Let's make them, what if we want something simple and not download any graphical elements to this? So we'll go to this button and press Properties by pressing B. And right here we have a button fill. A button fill basically says enable button fill, and once it enables, it automatically sets it to default, gray and blue. Now notice when I move my mouse over the colors, the wheel turns into turning wheel. That means I can increase the blue or I can decrease the blue just by adjusting mouse wheel. Now if you want to increase just the red color, just move your mouse over the red color, and it's also only going to adjust the red color now. It's not going to adjust anything else. If you want it over the green, you can adjust it over the green. Okay. So this way I can say button up is this way. Let's say button down, I want it to be white, and I want it to be blue like this. Now you can also change it to mouse over. If you want to, when you move your mouse over. In the touch environment, it's not that useful, but if you're designing something for desktop, that will be very good. Okay. So we enable fills. And the next thing we can do is we can enable ring color. So I'm going to take this button, and I'm going to enable ring color, and I'm going to increase the ring. So you can see that's a ring around the button. So when the button is up, I'm going to make it red. When the button is down, I'm going to make it green. Okay. And I'm going to say OK. So now let's go ahead and press it. There's our interface. Push the button, it turns green. Let it go, it turns red. As you can see, it's very, very clean and nice interface, and you don't have to do anything. Now, on this particular button, let's see if we can change something on this button without enabling fill. So going back to here, and we're going to enable button colors. So button up, you see the borders are right here, and the face is right here, and the top border is right here. So we've got three different colors here. Again, you can adjust the face to be darker. You can make it, if you want a specific color, you can just click here and adjust the color. Or you can just click here and select whatever color you want. So you can make it a green, and that's the top of the button is green. Okay. And once you're done with this, okay, so when we run it, press the button, and you can see you can change this. But finally, on the buttons, you can also adjust the text. Okay. Button up, mouse over, button down, and button disabled. For each of these settings, you can adjust the color, you can adjust the font, style, and the size. So you can have a small text. When button is up, I'm going to say projector. When button is down, I'll say, let's see, the color will be red. Okay. When the button is down, now remember, if I use the check mark, use the button up font, okay? So I'm going to come back here and say projector, and I'm going to use a different color. Let's say I use green. And I'm going to use a different font, and I'm going to make it bold, okay, and apply. Now, if you want to preview what the button down would look like, you can always go here and select the B for shortcut, and just press the down button, and you can see that it will change. So you can kind of look and see what the colors are. And finally, press F9, come back here, and you have the combination that you want. So as you can see, it's pretty easy to design your user interface and do any type of buttons. Let's touch a couple of other things. We have also what we call a video object. So on a graphical user interface, you can put a video object, and you can do many different things with video objects. For example, you can select a file to play. And the file to play, any MP4 files or anything else can play. So you can just select the file, press the button, it will play the file here. You can trigger things. If you click on top of the video object, you can do other things. You can stop, you can end it. You can also select repeat. In addition, when you select video play, you can also type in your URL address if you want to have a video streaming coming through. So just type a URL address for video streaming, and it will come through the subject. Now, in this case, I'm going to use a camera, and I think I have my camera set up, and we'll do apply. And let's see if I run it, you're going to see me. So there's my camera, and there's me sitting at the table. So you can see the video works directly, and you can see you can adjust, depending on the camera, you can adjust different things, brightness, contrast. So in the code, if I go to F11 and I say, let me control it in the code somehow. So I'm going to go show button and on click for right now. There's my new code. And this is my video one object. Video one. Press the period, and you can see all the features that are available. You can get device name, that means what type of video camera. You can adjust the height and index. You can pause, you can play, you can reposition, rotate. You can start it, you can stop it, and you can set transparency and all that other stuff. So there's many different things you can do with this video object. So what my favorite thing to do with it is to set up a video object and put a small HDMI to USB screen grabber, and that's going to be my preview monitor. So I do a preview monitor. I connect the input on a video grabber to one of the outputs from the switcher, and I can also preview what other people see. So, and you can have multiple objects. You don't have to be stuck with one object. Just copy paste. If you have two video cameras, you can see multiple video cameras. Yes, and we do have one person who did the security system with this. He had 36 cameras all working off of one AVSnap interface. All right. Well, with this in mind, I think we're coming to the end. We're at 8:53 right now. I'd like to cover other things, but if you have any questions, let me go ahead and open up the line. So if you have any question, you can ask. Let me stop this for a second. Audio options. Okay,
all attendees are muted and may unmute themselves by pressing *6.
Okay, you are now unmuted. If you have any questions, you can just press *6 on your phone, or you can just click on unmute button on your interface, and you can talk if you need to ask any questions. There's many other things that we can show here, but let's start with the one that a lot of people like to use, and this is the volume control. As you can see, the volume control is pretty straightforward. There's your little slider, and there's a volume on the background. Go to the properties, background fill, enable fill. So it gives you a nice clean, and then pointer, go ahead and enable that also. So at least it gives you something to start with. Okay, I'm going to decrease corner radius for the adjustment. And there is your little control. You can just press F9. Oh, we're going to remove that. Press F9. And you can see you can move it left and right. Okay. If you escape out of this and click B for the properties, you can see that you can slide the bar width. You can adjust the bar width. You can adjust the bar height. So if you want to get a little bit above, you can slide it down this way. And then when you run it, you can now have a different volume control. Now notice that everything can be open. As you go through, nothing is closed because you're in development mode. Once you're in development mode, that's where you stay until you finish your program. When you finish your program and everything is up and running, the first thing to do is to save it as executable file. Okay, so you put it to desktop and say my VC, video conferencing, and just save it. Okay, that will create an executable file right here, my VC. So if you run it, there's your file, fully operational, exactly the same way as the one that we had here. There's no difference in it, and you can now distribute it to your customers. So if you want to close it, just press close. And do you want to close AVSnap? Yes. Now, some people say, can we change this? Instead of saying, do you want to close AVSnap, can we change it to something else? Do you want to close my own program? And the answer is yes. So go to File, and you have a change language or language editor. There's two functions, but language editor is the one that you actually want to modify, okay? In language editor, you have all the things that are in the program right here on the left-hand side, everything that English holds, okay? So how do you find it? So you can modify it here if you find a specific place to modify it, but it's a little bit harder. The easier way to go right to the program files. So let's go to Drive C, Program Files, AVSnap, and right here you have English text. English text, when you open it, you can see right away that this is the English language file, main window, and you have lots of anything that has AVSnap has, it's all here. So I'm going to go back into this program, and I'm going to say, let me run this and see what it takes for me to find it. So there's my program. I'm going to try to close it. Do you want to close AVSnap? Okay. So let's go and find this. Do you want to close? Find next. Okay. Let's see. AVSnap. Oh, of course. Okay, there it is. I was searching downwards when I need to search upwards. So here it is. Do you want to close AVSnap? So just change this. Do you want to close? So this is the definition, what it is, and this is your customization. You can customize it on the right-hand side. Lift the one on the left-hand side the way they are, and just customize on the right-hand side. And you say, do you want to close my program? And just save it this way. Now, once you save it, when you run it again, so you can overwrite on the English text right here, and yeah. Oh, access denied. Okay, I have protected directory, so you'll need to save it locally and just copy it if you have administrative Word. Okay, but once you save it, you will be able to just modify any text that you want for your custom program. Okay. All right, guys, we're all done, and if you have any questions, as always, give us a call. If you have any particular project that you want to work on, we do offer full programming, 5 pages. They're available anytime. Just order it from us, and we can do all the initial programming for you, and then you can modify programming any way you want yourself. You own the code after that. Thank you so much for joining me today, and have a great day. Call us if you need anything. Take care.